Open source will be critically important to producing a scalable and reproducible community-based integrated data system. But why is this the case? Today, we'll be covering one of the important reasons that this technology will need to be open source, and that's cloud-based computing. My name is Leonard Lawson, and these are numbers that matter. The technology world is in the midst of transforming and adapting to a new era of cloud computing. You've probably heard of cloud computing, but might not know what it really means. That's perfectly fine. In this video, we'll be going over some of the important aspects of it to understanding how it will affect community-based integrated data systems. Cloud computing is the on-demand availability of computer system resources. Now, this definition is readable, but likely does not really expand your understanding. So let's use an analogy. The first practical arc electric lights were invented in the first decade of the 1800s. But electrical power grids did not really come into existence until around 1880s and later. So in those first 70-some years, if you wanted to add electrical lights to your building, you needed to purchase not just the lights, but also all of the equipment to build and maintain your own power station as well. Now, think about all of the cost involved here. If you wanted electrical lights in your building, you needed to purchase generators, fuel, massive amounts of wiring, and designs for building out a local power grid just for your building. That's just the physical infrastructure. You also needed staff to design, maintain, and operate all of that equipment. Now, fast forward to today, and getting electricity for electrical lights is trivial. The electricity is provided on demand. As a consumer, you no longer need to worry about generator designs and system maintenance or fueling that infrastructure to keep the lights on. You pay only for the electricity you use, and so if you use less, you pay less. This illustrates another important topic that we'll be discussing along the series: abstraction. In the modern day, you no longer need to worry about all of the infrastructure keeping your lights and the electrical grid connected. All of that work is abstracted away. All you need to know is that you pay a certain amount and you will get a certain amount from the power company in return. Cloud computing is about the abstraction of the infrastructure needed to use computing resources. Just like in the days of old with electricity, 2 decades ago, if you needed computing resources like storage or compute power, you used to have to create and manage your own computing infrastructure. This meant building your own servers, sourcing out CPUs, GPUs, RAM, motherboards, power supplies, and a long list of essential components. But now, cloud computing allows you to abstract away all of that complexity and purchase compute and storage for absurdly low prices in an on-demand service. You only pay for the resources you use, so as you use less, you pay less. Now you know what cloud computing is. How is this related to open source software? Well, cloud computing is changing the entire technology space for the applications we use for work and play. It enables cheaper, faster, and more reliable computing services. This is also true of nonprofit applications as well. Nonprofit applications will need to be designed to run on the cloud to take full advantage of what this paradigm has to offer. The only way to take maximum advantage of the cost savings is to be designed from the ground up to run on cloud infrastructure. Applications designed from the beginning to be run on the cloud are known as cloud native. The Cloud Native Computing Foundation defines cloud native across these 3 paragraphs. In their definition, they specifically emphasize open source and vendor neutral as key elements of adopting this paradigm. And this makes sense. If your software needs to be scaled up and down across different servers all over the globe, then you're going to want open source software which is inspectable, free to use, and free to modify. Now, that is the software side of the equation. Open source can be applied to much more than just software. It can be applied to hardware, blueprints, and organizational structures. Open source is just as valuable in those arenas as well. To make this more concrete, if Guilford County wants to create its own community-based integrated data system, it will likely need to integrate with systems that are external to the county itself. Guilford County residents receive and apply for services outside of the county all the time. To get the most accurate picture about what are the services that residents need and which services are having the most impact on residents, you may have to rely on integrating with systems in Forsyth, Alamance, Rockingham, Davidson, and Randolph as well. Furthermore, each of these systems may need to integrate with state and federal systems as well, like Medicaid or HUD systems. All of these integrations would be made much easier if these entities could use an open source blueprint that they could adopt and adapt for their own purposes free of charge. Now, hopefully the pieces are starting to come together. If an open source blueprint existed that any community could adopt and run either locally or on a cloud computing service provider, then these integrated data systems could start integrating with each other to tackle regional issues like economic revitalization and improving regional quality of life. Again, this is a big, challenging problem. I may fail, but so that others may succeed where I have failed, all of my research, all of the designs and code that I release here will all be open source, available for anyone to use free of charge. If you find value in this content, please share, like, and subscribe. I'll be putting out more and more content on these critical areas along with viable avenues of attack. If you have any thoughts or suggestions of topics you'd like me to cover, please place them in the comment section below. Later.